Munchausen syndrome by proxy. It is a mental health problem in which caregivers make up an illness or an injury in a person who is under their care. And according to modern medicine, the victims are usually children, the disabled, and the elderly, so the most vulnerable categories. And some experts view Munchausen syndrome by proxy as a type of sociopathic or psychopathic behavior, specifically as a subgroup of borderline personality disorder. So what does this syndrome look like? So we're going to talk about three different experiences of Munchausen by proxy. And we're going to talk about the first subject, which is Chloe. And Chloe is a grown woman who has childhood memories revolving around doctor visits, her mother's illnesses, and her mother's concern about others being sick. Her mother insisted on caring for dying family members inside of her home, but contradicted this kind of image when she mistreated Chloe, her daughter. And Chloe's mother only treated her with kindness when Chloe was sick or injured and needed care. Now that Chloe has the cognitive maturity to be able to question the hyper-focused behavior on illness and disease that it was dumped on her in childhood, she wonders if her mother possibly had some sort of health issue or personality disorder. So subject number 2 is Laureen, and she is a divorced mother and a healthcare worker with several children. And Laureen, she had a physical disorder that required multiple surgeries and doctor visits. And she spent most of her childhood being examined by doctors, poked and prodded. And her mother carried guilt that she smoked and she drank during her pregnancy with Laureen. And this thus creating this dichotomy, this anomaly. And Lauren's mother never left her alone concerning her health and always insisted that she was not well and gave her everything she wanted materially. But Laureen now does the same thing to her own children, and she exaggerates these minor illnesses and seeks unnecessary interventions and seeking out people who are providing her undivided attention and care. And you can see where that would definitely be on the behavior level of a narcissist. And this person also fabricates illnesses in the children to prevent her husband from leaving or to prevent her ex-husband from contacting them. The ways that this could go are endless. Caitlin, subject number 3, is a healthcare worker who has several children again, and she became very sick after she gave birth. Caitlin was constantly bringing her children to the emergency room, eliciting pity and attention from the hospital workers, and a few close friends and family members suspected that something was wrong when one of the children died as an infant, and it was discovered that Caitlin was administering various substances into her children's bloodstreams, and that these were very difficult to detect so that they would appear sick from unknown causes. This is more prevalent in women. So the mother in a situation like a Munchausen by proxy situation, during, say, a routine doctor visit, may bully the doctor into writing unnecessary prescriptions, and she may also demand that he write false information down in their charts about their health. As Munchausen syndrome by proxy has been characterized as a sociopathic behavior or a personality trait. It has been described as being like a serial bully, and they also present themselves like the narcissist as a false victim. So they are convincing liars, and they seem to have a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde aspect, nature to them. And the most unnerving is that the women who have this disorder often work as nurses and other healthcare workers, and they know the lingo, which gives them way more credibility with the doctors who are treating these children. So we're going to go back and we're going to look at Chloe, because Munchausen by proxy, it seems to operate much like narcissism on a spectrum. And while Chloe, with her, we see that she was the victim of a mother who had a moderate form of this disorder. And Chloe managed to recognize the pathological aspects of this behavior, the pathological behavior itself, and then realize that her mother, she accidentally focused, or not accidentally, she was focusing on sickness and medicines and hospitals and death. And by capitalizing on the illness of others and rescuing them, the Munchausen individual receives praise and enjoys this glory of being seen as some type of a hero, at least in their own mind. This is them gaining narcissistic supply. And I've heard this behavior called megalomania or malignant hero syndrome and so on. Okay, so we're going back to Laureen. Laureen seems to be a victim of transgenerational Munchausen syndrome by proxy, and her mother's guilt over Laureen's birth defect mutated into an obsession over her daughter's health, and her mother needed to be portrayed as the rescuer on a continual, if not persistent, basis to overcome her self-loathing, another narcissist characteristic. And her mother created a sort of monster inside of Laureen, where Laureen seeks unnecessary medical attention in a passive-aggressive manner. She bullies her ex-husband and alienates him from their children. Caitlin, she appears to be high on the spectrum, and this is where the disorder results in severe maltreatment and abuse and eventually death. It did escalate to a death of her child. And when she would bring the child to the ER, all of the focus is on the mother and her distraught nature, which garners a lot of sympathy, which is a form of narcissistic supply, a very potent one at that. And many times, if a victim of Munchausen syndrome by proxy, and if the individual survives, they will refuse to be a witness to the crime. It's the Stockholm syndrome or the cognitive dissonance, again, with narcissistic abuse. And this is a factor in not reporting it to authorities, like most abusers or people who are victims of abuse do. Munchausen syndrome by proxy is a severe attention-seeking sociopathic disorder that can overlap with other disorders such as narcissistic and borderline personality disorder. It is difficult to identify which disorder is dominant and which one is driving the individual to harm their own children and, if not, kill them. These are other vulnerable people too, and when their victims are treated by doctors, they receive this fuel to carry on. And similar to how a narcissist behaves when they mistreat their targets, it can be an adrenaline rush for them. It is an adrenaline rush for them. This is especially important to take note that an individual with Munchausen syndrome by proxy commonly chooses a career in the healthcare industry. And this fact is alarming, but we should not be surprised in our world, because these days it seems we are overrun with sociopaths and a lot of disordered individuals. My name is Sara Ann Brown, and this is Narcissistic Abuse 101. Don't forget to click subscribe, press that like button, and hit the bell icon to receive future updates. Thanks, guys.